Hey everybody, welcome to the Morning Devo with Beau. It is Friday, August 15th, and we're ready for Acts 24. We're going to finish up the week with this chapter. Should be super cool. This is the morning devotion. You could always check out the archives at my YouTube channel at Beau Willett. Just go to YouTube, go to the search bar, type in my name right there, Beau Willett, and you'll come to the channel. And there's a lot of books of the Bible. There's even the Quran reading that's going on right now. I'm in Surah 4, and that is a wow. If you've never read that, you will be, you will be blown away for sure. And you could always check out my kind of catch-all website, just beauwillett.com. And the reason I did that was simply just to kind of have a place where I could kind of throw a bunch of links up of the different websites and kind of projects that I've been a part of, just ministry projects over the years, because I've had a nonprofit for years. I've done a lot of speaking. I've done teaching in college. I've done all kinds of different things, presentations in college, to be more specific, but yeah, just a lot of different things. So kind of been all over the place. I certainly haven't been that pastor that just kind of, does the same thing every week. And last night I had a great time. We just had a 3-hour Bible study, kind of Bible discussion. Wow, up in the town of Oracle, and that was amazing. And it's whirlwind. Definitely not the pastor that just sits and on a Sunday or on a midweek. Not that guy. Everybody's got their gifts, man, but I tend to be the one that's a little all over the place. So hockey season's going to be coming up here in October. Super excited about that. It looks like we're going to get some rain potentially, so that's kind of cool. Just maybe we might get some rain. That would be cool. Yeah, okay. So chapter 24 of Acts, that's why you're here, is to go through it. It says, 5 days later, Ananias the high priest arrived with some of the Jewish elders and the lawyer Tertullus to present their case against Paul to the governor. I just love the details. I love the narrative. You just get a real detail. And by the way, this is rich material. I mean, for an ancient document to be like this, to be so clear, so precise, so clear, talking about the governor, everything. Remember, Luke, who wrote the book of Acts, was a doctor. And so he had his own profession. But, we take it for granted, this kind of clarity in ancient writing. But it's not like that, friends. Some writings are not like this at all. And when Paul was called in, Tertullus presented the changes against Paul in the following address to the governor. You have provided a long period of peace for us Jews, and with foresight have enacted reforms for us. For all of this, Your Excellency, we are very grateful to you. But I don't want to bore you, so please give me your attention for only a moment. We have found this man to be a troublemaker who is constantly stirring up riots among the Jews all over the world. He is a ringleader of the cult known as the Nazarenes. Furthermore, he was trying to desecrate the temple when we arrested him. You can find out the truth of our accusations by examining him yourself. Then the other Jews chimed in, declaring that everything Tertullus said was true. So Tertullus was the Jews in Jerusalem for the temple, their lawyer, and they are presenting their case against Paul before Governor Felix if I remember, it was Caesarea. So very interesting. I kind of find this very relevant to today's world. Can you go to a place in today's world where if you were to preach something other than the legal, and I stress that, the legal, quote, religion, will you be in trouble? Will you have to go to court and potentially have to have a case tried against you. Well, you need a lawyer for you. I just got off the phone last week with a wonderful brother in India, missionary from there. He's from India, actually. And he was telling me about that country and his town, his city that he's in, millions of people that have enacted laws that you cannot teach anything, any other religion other than Hinduism. And that it really limits the amount of evangelism that you can do in the city because obviously it's against the law. And it doesn't matter what other religion it is. It's just, if it's not Hinduism, then it can't be taught. It's against the law. And you would be tried. And so this happens today all the time, where think of where most of the people live. It's not in the United States. It's China, right? Asia, India, and Africa. That's where the world lives, by the way. That's where the population of human beings are at. All of us other places are kind of fringe places. We're just not as big as them. They're huge. 1.8 billion people, in these places. I mean, it's pretty remarkable when you think about it. And when you look at where the world is, how many of those places can you not talk about another religion? And now your mind starts going, oh, not much has changed at all. Yeah, this is very, very common in where people are at. We just happen to be in a place where it's not really that populated, but we tend to think very, me-centric, and we think that we are the dominant ones, when no, you got it all wrong. It's backwards. Everybody over there, that's the population of the world. That's really what's going on, man. We're on the side, so to speak. So I don't know if you've ever thought about that, but look at a map. Look at how many people live other places compared to how many people live where we're at. But the whole point is that this happens very often today. Man, it's so sad, right? It says, the governor then motioned for Paul to speak. Paul said, I know, sir, that you have been a judge of Jewish affairs for many years, so I gladly present my defense before you. You can quickly discover that I arrived in Jerusalem no more than 12 days ago to worship at the temple. So this is just less than 2 weeks after the mob at the temple. My accusers never found me arguing with anyone in the temple, nor stirring up a riot in any synagogue or on the streets of the city. These men cannot prove the things that they are accusing me of doing. I'm innocent until proven guilty. But I admit that I follow the way, which they call a cult. Interesting. How many times has someone gone to church? They come to faith in Jesus, and they go to a church, and their parents are like, man, you're in a cult, man. Like, what are you doing? You go into that church. That's a cult, And sometimes, I don't know if you've ever had family members mistaken that maybe what you're in is a cult. We certainly have. And, where, our parents are really suspect of, I'm part of the Calvary Chapel movement, and that kind of thing. So, some people go, oh, Calvary Chapel, that's a cult group, and go into that. And so Paul says, hey, I'm part of the way, man. I'm a follower of Jesus. I love Jesus. And people, of course, Judaism, a lot of people felt like it was a cult, that it was some kind of new revelation, changing the ways of the old. And they had it wrong. Jesus was the fulfillment of the old, not changing the old, not in a sense making it of no use or no purpose or no meaning or lacking its holiness. No, the Old Testament has all of that. If you don't believe me, read the book of 1 Timothy. The law is good if one uses it lawfully. It's good. It's a good thing. It's a schoolmaster. The law is our schoolmaster to bring us to Christ. Galatians 3, 24? So they were misunderstood. It's not like a cult group today that literally abrogates everything. Says, hey, our newer prophet can change things. And so Paul is explaining this, right? And he says, after, verse 14. But I admit that I follow the way which was called, or which they call a cult. I worship the God of our ancestors, and I firmly believe the Jewish law and everything written in the prophets. There you go. It's all there. That's what he's going off of. I have the same hope in God that these men have. So the early church read the Bible, the Hebrew Bible. Guess what today's church should do? Read the Hebrew Bible. Yeah, you find out about Jesus not from the New Testament, but from the Hebrew Bible. This is such a bad misunderstanding in just the world for many, many, many years, to think that the Messiah, doctrines, theology of the Messiah is a New Testament. It's not. And here you just see it. Paul says, I firmly believe the Jewish law and everything written in the prophets. They're all talking about Jesus. I have the same hope in God that these men have, that he will raise both the righteous and the unrighteous. Because of this, I always try to maintain a clear conscience before God and all people, trying to do the right things. Today, can I try to do the right things, right? Or just, think about God so that when I have decisions to make, I can make them in a way where I have a clear conscience before God. Man, that is really cool. Having a clear conscience before the Lord in my day. So when the day comes to an end, I go, hey, it's not that I didn't have blunders. I did have blunders. But Lord, I wanted to make decisions that I could have a clear conscience before you. Man, that's a great kind of devotion right there. After several years, I returned to Jerusalem with money to aid my people and to offer sacrifices to God. My accusers saw me in the temple, and I was completing a purification ceremony. There was no crowd around me and no rioting, but some Jews from the province of Asia were there, and they ought to be here to bring charges if they have anything against me. Ask these men here what crime the Jewish high council found me guilty of. Except for the one time I shouted out, and I am on trial before you today because I believe in the resurrection of the dead. At that point, Felix, who was quite familiar with the way, adjourned the hearing and said, wait until Lysias, the garrison commander, arrives. Then I will decide the case. He ordered an officer to keep Paul in custody, but to give him some freedom and allow his friends to visit him and take care of his needs. So it's kind of neat. You get another kind of nugget of the early church and kind of Rome and kind of the way they operated. I think it's really cool that Felix is quite familiar with the way, which is very cool, meaning the early church was very active. This group of people that believed in Jesus being the Messiah spread rather quickly. And a few days later, Felix came back with his wife Drusilla, who was Jewish. Sending for Paul, they listened as he told them about the faith in Jesus Christ. And as he reasoned with them about righteousness and self-control and the coming day of judgment, wow. So what did Paul talk to Felix and Drusilla about? How to be right with God, practicing self-control as a fruit of the Spirit, and that one day God will judge the world in righteousness. This is the idea, right? Paul already gave this message, by the way, at the Areopagus, where he says God will appoint a day in which he will judge the world in righteousness by the one whom he's appointed. He's proven this by raising him from the dead, this being Jesus. And so Felix became frightened. Go away now, he replied. When it is more convenient, I'll call for you again. He had hoped that Paul would bribe him, so he sent him quite often and talked with him. So he was hoping that Paul was somewhat corrupt, that this truly was just a kind of a cult and that he could bribe Paul, but that wasn't going to work. Jesus really rose from the dead. It was a real deal thing. Paul was ready to give his life for the resurrected Lord, not the crucified Lord, but the resurrected Lord, right? And not to minimize the crucifixion by any means, but it's just that the resurrection is what really showed that Jesus truly was the Messiah. And so we see that Felix has an emotion that most of us have too. All of us have, really. And that is one, as we get scared and we get fearful. I don't want to hear about judgment. How many people in our world don't want to hear about judgment, so they avoid reading the Bible? So instead of reading the Bible, they'll avoid it. And yet they will judge other people anyway, and other people will judge them as well. So even though you avoid the accountability or the understanding of judgment by the deity, by God, it's not that you avoid judgment altogether. You still are in a world that judges every day. It's just that you have become, in a sense, scared. You think that if you move away from this concept of eternal judgment, that it'll somehow go away. But time keeps on ticking, right? It keeps on going. And you can't avoid this. But isn't it weird? It's so irrational that we would avoid dealing with eternal judgment, because we certainly are going to die. And then from the moment of death, that's it, right? What next? And so to avoid is irrational. To learn about it would be rational, would be the right thing to do, because it's something that for certain is going to come, meaning you're going to fall apart. Your body is decaying. That's what's going down. That's why we get wrinkles, and that's why our bodies don't look the same, and that's why our body retains more fat as we get older, and da-da-da-da-da, and all kinds of things are going on, and it's really funky and not so fun. So avoiding this, Felix, isn't the way to go. Hey, what are you avoiding today? What am I avoiding today? What is it that I don't want to read because I don't want to come face to face with it? What is it about Jesus and what he taught that I don't want to come face to face with? Picking up my cross, following him, laying down my life, looking at my lust, looking at my greed, looking at, the way I live, those kind of things. It's a bummer that we consistently put the clothes on to try to hide our nakedness before God. But that's what we continue to do. We just keep spinning round and round, right? That's what we do. And so Felix, you see him just like a lot of us, man. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear that, man. I want to hear, 12 positive affirmations. I want to hear 10 positive things. I want to hear the 6 things that will make you successful. I want to hear the 2 things that'll, that kind of thing. I want to, you get the idea. It says after 2 years, Michael, you're right. 1040 window is absolutely right. After 2 years went by this way, Felix was successful succeeded by Porcius Festus. And because Felix wanted to gain favor with Jewish people, he left Paul in prison. So it's really sad. Drusilla and Felix, maybe you can look them up and read about their story. Find out more about them. Paul wanted to talk to them about eternal judgment, about Jesus being the judge, which meant that Jesus must be God, because God is the judge of all. And that we will be judged for our sins, for our attitude of walking away from God, of rebelling, not having self-control at all. And I heard a pastor the other day say, amongst the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, all that. He said self-control is like the broccoli, of the bowl. It's like the thing that no one wants to, have. I thought that was cute. Very cool. A young pastor said that, and I thought that was a great kind of picture. Self-control being broccoli. Like, who really wants to eat that? Self-control. Felix was a guy who wanted to bribe. What kind of heart do you think you need to use your power in court to bribe people? To bribe them. How can I get money from this way, the group called the Way? Maybe they'll pay me some money to get Paul out of this situation. Maybe if I detain a person for a period of time, maybe there will be a payoff. I'll get money. Someone will ask for money. Doesn't this sound kind of familiar? Maybe if I hold people captive, prison, in a tunnel, starve them, maybe, just maybe, someone will give us money. Countries will come to their aid and do what we want them to do. Man, this happens right now in our world, where people of power keep people that are weak in places where the people of power are waiting for a bribe. They're waiting for a bribe from a country, from people, and then people bite. And then people bite all the time. And instead of people being for the people in the prison, people start being for the people that are the Felixes of the world. Those that are actually bribing people, but they're in power. Man, this is our crazy world, right? And it's gross. Now, it's something that resides in us, so we got to deal with it just in our devotion before God, where we go, God, rid me of this attitude of privilege, of manipulation, of suppressing the truth in unrighteousness. Instead of being true, saying what is true, instead of going the way of a lie, of pretense, a show, manipulating. Man, can I really be a person in whom there is no guile? And I love it that Paul, man, certainly passes the test, right? I mean, how beautiful is that? He's a guy who says Paul would not buy into the bribe, but Felix kept what? Tempting and tempting and tempting. Let's talk to Paul again. Let's talk to Paul again. And it just kept going. And that's how, of course, that wicked one works, right? The consistent tempting. It's a real heart check, Am I like Felix? Or am I like Paul? What am I like? What is my character? Am I one who will take bribes? Am I one who will succumb? Do I want money that bad? Do I want power that bad? At all cost, even if it's true. There are things that I've read in other religious texts, by the way, that it's okay to go through a manipulation of people. You could manipulate people for the furtherance of the religion. that it's okay to do that. Nothing's wrong with furthering the cause through bribery. And I'm so glad that we have the true and living God's words that are so crystal clear, so right, so righteous, no lying, no manipulation, no pretense, absolutely pure, beautiful, right? The words of the Lord are pure. I think of that psalm. Okay, what a great chapter. Not a big chapter, only 27 verses, but man, some really good stuff there. So, work on my inner parts today: bribery, lying, pretense. Or am I like Paul, going to hold to being full of integrity today? So, good one. You guys take care, okay? Have a great one. Thanks so much for joining me. Always love you guys, okay? It's like a family nowadays, man. We've done it so long. So you guys take care. Bye-bye.